Tene ta tanda Jerdo Shaja Chimbo Kaumala Ngandro ta Nguye ta Ji de Nambasum Ngandro Rombap Nambasum Song Yorela Ngandro Rombap Nambasum Te La Ta Thangtong Gyalpo Yewa Namba Chi Na Yo Mare Te Yenaya Jonang Jetsin Taranatha Ge Tene Hine Tong Long Tong Namba Ni Su Temperanze Penane Ta Hine Ge Chate Kasen Mikur Chuchi Ke Gone Hubarela Ta Terin Long Tong Ge Chalare Long Tong Ge Chai Nane Tangbo Tanda Angaranzo Choshin Kauma Tanda Thangtong Gyalpo Ge Songa Tene Hyona Karsang Kantule Yon Noala Sen Chona Konlan Trowe Yurjet Noa Te Tombor Kone Sang Tata Konani Tar Kondon Nga Warchilama Yapar Lipar Sal Sungarela Tate Cherdo Tanda Ngaranzo Komsong Shaja Chimbu Kapla Yina Nonto Ne Tawata Tenin Jodo Ne Tawata Neto Ne Tawa Dabata Tinde Song Yorela Tina Ne Tatanda Kamder Noala No Geta Ne Tawa Tinsare Tati Hontonga Indu Tela Noala Sem Chona Song Ta Noala Make you to Jibba Zuntonga Now you to Jibba Datuba Na yo to jebe tetsorwa, che yo to jebe ronyowa, luchi yo to jebe rizanyowa la sopa, noa la san trona, konlan trowe, yulje noa te, tombo kone san yulte, tanda chitanga, tanda le tambo pa ina te se kawa yore. Re te yina ya, ngune se na, ta le tombo be noa la kare khaga yore se na, chi ngupo te chiru to yepa la, tene rangi parti de patabu je kharga yore. Rela, te la khepto ta na, te tabo ma impa, tene rangi sem la chu kharga yore. Per na, malam je noa tabu je yina, malam la sem ma to chi ngupo te yo mare te, yina ya chi yul sa do re to komba Nyewa la sopa tinde khargi yorela. Te kharwa te tardo thandi ki tsendi ki noanda yo. Noa te rangla semna kharwa yimbachirna. Te kone shang tata kona ne tar kondo nga te tagu kare.
In these instructions on the Amulet Mahamudra, there are the three different parts of the instructions. There are the preliminaries, there's the actual practice, and there is the follow-through. And of these, we have been discussing the preliminaries. The preliminaries are the threefold letting go, or the threefold naturally settling. And so then within these, there are the special preliminaries. And these special preliminaries are something that are not divided up by Thangtong Gyalpo. But Jetsun Taranatha does divide them into two parts of the special preliminaries. There are the instructions on tranquility meditation and the instructions on insight meditation. And of these two different parts, yesterday we discussed tranquility meditation. We discussed the 11 different subjects of focus of tranquility meditation, and so now that we're done with that, we have come to the instructions on insight meditation. Now, if we look at Thangtong Gyalpo's Amulet Mahamudra, we pick up where we left off before. This is on the top of page 5, starting from the first actual paragraph break there. If the mind still goes out to appearances, first, where did those appearances of objects come from? Now, where do they stay? Finally, where do they stop? Do not leave it vague, search thoroughly. And so here, Generally, as many of you already know, in the Karma Kansan lineage, when we talk about insight, we talk about looking at the mind in appearances, looking at the mind in motion, looking at the mind in stillness. And so here, when we are discussing this here, what we are talking about is looking at the mind in appearances. So this is insight meditation of looking at the mind and appearance. And here it says, if the mind still goes out to appearances, so the mind goes out to experiences. Now, when the mind goes out to appearances, we have the perception of form that is perceived by the eye, or a form that is the object of the eye, sound that is the object of the ear, scent that is the object of the nose, taste that is the object of the tongue, and touch that is the object of the body. And when we look at these, when these appearances happen, when our mind goes out to these appearances, when we look at them, it seems like there is an object there. There's the object of form seen by the eye and so forth. And so for us beginners to look at this, it's actually kind of difficult for beginners to see. It's difficult for us to see that this is actually the mind going out to the appearances, because for us beginners, it looks like there is some sort of object that's out there, and it's really there. And so it seems to us like we ourselves are looking out at something else. But if we really start to examine the situation carefully, we see that it's really not like that. So really what it is that there are these appearances that are just appearing towards the mind rather than the mind going out. It's just appearances happening towards the mind. So there aren't any actual external objects in the mind. It is like in a dream. In a dream, we see things, they appear to us, but there is nothing actually there. And so it is the same with with outside objects. They appear to, there are forms and so forth that appear to the eye, but if we look at them, then these appearances that appear to us, the appearances of rocks and ground and houses and places and people, our friends and relatives, all of these appearances of these life do appear to us, but we need to look and see, well, where is it that these appearances really come from? Where do they come from? Where do they stay while they're here? And where do they go? And so we need to look at this really carefully and understand them.
Tene tate la ya certo te la tanguni ta jipo karipi ta chi sepa ta ngasam nyam su nyone ta chi sepa ni ye penani ta chetang ke jipo ke ta chi sepa chom main pa ngasam nyam su nyone ngarang ke no and kani chongdo semle tate pe no arindo sem ta ngoji pe no arindo sem la charwe ngoji rindo yapo ta chi sene te tago kre tate orche chom la ma ya sung te la orche sena ta phache thik na la tinde ji song yo re tinde ji injure wa tate te imbala cho ya go kre ba sambanda bo ma impar tene ngarang ngus te la te ne te tagaran rindo ta te le yendo Zalia Mandu Sambataba la Lapar Zal sitting Arang Muni Nyamsu Nyoni Tombo Kani Jegedu Tanda Kaba Negando Tarakondon Gogando Yapo te Yapotago Tepa Teya Pe Chepache Narang Yichi Baching Etepa Yi Te Ne Teta Vichin Do Sambache Gugre Mato Tapashire Tinde Injire Tinde Suare Sambatsama Imba Ta Kalchimbu Tagure Tene Zimito Paisona Ta Teta Bata Capsula Chi Hirjit Noati Nang San Herwatsam Yimbata Nang San Herwati Rangi Ngotomba Imbatilla Paisona Te Tembi Zone Te Ngondo Yako Tate Chi Nola Tene Nyambra Yapala Gogre.
Now, when we are looking and examining and analyzing this way, there are actually two different ways that we can analyze things. We can look at things through inference, and then we can also directly experience things and find out and analyze in that way. So there are these two different ways to analyze. And so here, when we are discussing this, we are not, in general, we're just not talking about only using inference, but we're talking about actually directly experiencing it, really seeing it. And so when we look for where are these appearances, what are these appearances like? Are these appearances something that is separate from our mind? Are they something that is the same in essence in the mind? Are they merely something that appears to the mind? How is it that they are? And here it says, do not leave them vague. So we shouldn't just leave it something where it says, well, you know, those instructions manuals say it's like that, must be like that. Probably is like that. I think it must be like that. They say it's like that. That's not how we should leave it. We should really look hard and then have a thought that, oh yeah, it really is like that. That's what it is like. There's nothing else that I can look for. That's really what it is. And so we have to have this real, genuine experience of what these appearances are. We need to really experience, where do the appearances come from? Where do the appearances stay? When they stop, where do they stop? We need to really look for that. And we need to look until we come to the point where we really believe this. You know, we have real confidence and belief that, oh yeah, this is definitely how it is. It's not this sort of thing, yeah, it's probably like that. Yeah, it's probably like that, doesn't cut it. It's not enough, you know. We really need to get to the real certainty there. And so we need to look at these appearances of the external objects, and we need to see how are they? Are they just something that appears to the mind? And when we see them, when we look at them, if it then disperses into non-fixation, hold on to that with mindfulness and rest in its nature. So we are looking at the appearances. We see that they're just something that merely appears to the mind, and we see that the nature of that appearance is emptiness. And when we do, we hold on to that with mindfulness. We grasp it with mindfulness, and then we looking at these appearances, we rest within the nature of them.
Tene tate chi no la tawa la kogi ore la ta nang ripa la tawa la nang ripa hipa la tawa hipa te la ta tanda sen ne pe ka yin na yonda sen no to jo ka yin na yonda te tar no la chi chi ni ya chi chen kin je sem te yo koni song ta te la tang kin sem chi yo re la sem te koni song kon don ro kona ne chi chi la ta tang bo chi no la ta chi no la tang kin te ni chi chen kin sem sar kin ripa chi yo re yo pe number do chi yo re te yapa te la te chi chen kin sar kin ripi hipa te kawato te tombo koni song pardo kondon ro tama kona ne chi la ta te chei kashite ke namba no la tawa te kashite ke namba ta chei ta semla tawa te kanante ke namba ta chei ne chei la ta te ya jipa ka ta chi se pala ko yo mare perna ngaranso peshawa ta chei na teni chuton chi toni to ripa no sen no to ripa tenzo kariri se na jipa shata kashil ko ne jipa shata se ge yore tanda nan ting zen la on jurwe ga kapsala te tabu ta jipa la te ne mai pa teni hipa kha nan to ko ne teni nguni sen la ta ne semte ngarang semte yepe number do ji yore te yedu kande che yogdo tate yena ne kando do kapkala ripatin drogi warela drodu kawato do kapkala negi warela ne du kana negi do chi la ta Tipe sem cholon dondo in do na tate te sangi singin rabo je regen do na te ngola ta yang te sangi singin rabo je do na sangi singin ti ngola ta ye main par ripa chun te si tremba to hijin ke ripa chu chun ne ta gu gre so.
So when we are looking at the external appearances like that, then there is also the internal mind. There's the mind, the awareness, or the know that, or the knowing of that. And so, where is that? What is that like? We need to find out what it's like, whether the mind is resting or whether the mind is moving. There are these, in general, there are these two ways the mind can be. And when the mind is like that, when there is someone who is looking, the mind that is looking, what is that mind like? So get to the bottom of it in that way. So get to the bottom of looking at appearances in that way. But where did the mind that gets to the bottom of it come from? Where does it go? Where does it stay? Look at getting to the bottom of it. So when we're looking at getting to the bottom of what appearances are like, then we need to also then look at the mind that is looking. And when we look at the mind that, when we examine the mind that is looking, there is it has the quality of clear awareness. And so where does this come from? It takes a form of a clear appearance. And where does that come from? Where does that clear awareness go to? Where does it stay? What is it like? So we need to really look at that one-pointedly and really get to the bottom of that as well. And so when we are looking at this, when at first we are looking at appearances, at that point the mind is directed outwards towards appearances. Here now the mind is directed inwards at the nature of the mind. And when we do this, this is not just a question of understanding it through inference. It's a question of actually developing experience of it. For example, if we are some sort of academic or scholar, we're generally thinking about everything being emptiness. We use logic and inference to prove first that everything is emptiness, and then to prove that all appearances are mine. And we use logic and inference to do this. But here we are not just using logic. Really, we are using the strength of our samadhi meditation to look so that we are not just inferring something, but so that we're really looking at what we are turning our attention inwards towards the mind itself and looking at the mind itself. So I have a mind. We have a mind. And so if there is a mind, what is the way that it is? What is it like? How is it like? Where does it come from? Where does it stay? Where does it go? How does it stop? And so we look at the essence of the mind. We look at the awareness of that. So sometimes it seems like awareness is going someplace. And so when awareness seems to go someplace, then we look at that and see how that is. We look at that one-pointedly. Now, sometimes when we look at that, if looking gets the mind churned up, look at its essence. So sometimes when we look this way, our mind gets kind of flustered or agitated or flustered in some sort of way. And so if our mind gets a little bit worked up in this sort of way, then we look at the essence of that mind itself, and we sort of strengthen our mindfulness and awareness and look in that way.
Tene tatela semge nelu sena senjingo wala ta kapso ta chorwanda bo ni yungi warela cheite semna sangi singen da bo jiri ne tate nesha da bo mepa rebe kapsula jo kapsula mahin par ripachun sena tene ripadremni tene mahin pasigo gi ware यहाँ तेतर तो तेना कौन तो यो मतो पर चे तो लेनेर नेना था नम तो हिरो में पा चे तो लेनेर नेना देखे गोला न्यम पर योगो था तिंगोला तेने नेकें तो ना तिंगाला यो ना तेने तिंगे जंती यापो युंगी वारे सो.
When we're looking at the nature of the mind, or when we're looking at the essence of the mind, there are two different sorts of feelings that can happen. One of these is that our mind gets really churned up, that our mind gets really flustered and churned up. And when that happens, then there is no real stability in the mind. And so if that happens, then look at its essence and really tighten up the awareness. So really focus and tighten up the awareness. Now, another thing that can happen is that you can remain without thinking of anything at all, vividly and one-pointedly. So if you find that there are no thoughts and you can just remain one-pointedly within that and vivid, then you just rest within the nature of just that. So you just rest within that, and that is a sign of our meditation going well.
Chi no la tawa ta nang sam la tawa number ni so suare ta te tar do chi no la yon te nang sam la yon te ne te tar se chong ta tin de sin chi no la te na yon ra nang sam ne pa ton jo la te na yon ra te gombe capsule la nam to tro na nam to ya ne ma to ba Topa Trona, Tembi Zong, sitting in Hiti, Tin, O Tatandangala Nam to Jesua, Sambatabuche. Tatandangala Nam to Jesua, Sambate, Hine, Topa Conji, Tamji, Tinin Nam to Kandri, Jijina, Nam to Zamboche Nayondra, Nam to Nembache Nayondra, Cantarayon, Tema Tha, Tinin Hakosi. Hako ni tema to jing be chia la tene taka si som yo ni o nam tu thogu tu ga tanda tingen sen jing on ne ge mandu a no ala ta ka sala no ala ta thogu mandu nam tu go on tu hyor ge tu ga som ne hako wa se nang ge sam la ta na yo sam te la ta thogu mandu a tanda nam tu tho ni yin du tu ga sam ba ti hako wa se ne tini tige nam tu ge jende be sin ta tanda lam sung som yo to ba ta som yo la ti la yo ko si ta te ta bu yo la yo gu re sung re la te ta bu nyam yo ko sung yin.
And so we have these two different things that we're looking at. We're looking at the external appearances and we're looking at the internal mind. And so sometimes when we are looking at the external appearances or whether we're looking at the internal mind, if you do that, but thoughts still occur. So sometimes we look at these, but the thoughts still happen, whether we're looking at the mind at rest or the mind in motion, there are still sometimes thoughts that happen. And so if you do that, but thoughts still occur, hold with mindfulness. So when the thoughts happen, then have mindfulness and awareness. And think to yourself, oh, a thought just happened. I just had a thought. And when that happens, then you hold it with the mindfulness. And so whatever thoughts arise, so there are many different thoughts that can happen. And you might have good thoughts, or you might have bad thoughts, but whatever sort of thought it is that happens, then immediately cut them. So immediately you need to know that they're there. You need to know that they're there, and cut them here means that you need to put a stop to them. You need to take a rest from them. You need to put a stop to these minds. You need to, I just had a thought. A thought happened. I'm not resting in my meditation. When I was looking at these external appearances, then a thought happened. And so you have to know what happened. Or I was looking at my internal mind and then a thought occurred. And so when that happens, then you need to immediately cut them completely and rest. So cut them completely means here that you just need to put a stop to them, you need to take a break from them, and then rest within that. So rest in equipoise and meditation within that.
Tene ta te tar do gombe kapso te nam che kap nyam chi chi tam chi sungjal to chong sun te la ta che tang ke tingen sen gombe kapso le nyam mandawa yungi yore tingen sen ji nyam singete tene tingen sen ji nyam singete yundu te la kap la che o ta tingen sen ngune yapu yimbanda Be Yapundo something in Yamia, Yungi or Rella. Yankala Tangaranga gum the loss on him, but that's any yogaman do some better boy, young cigarette. Take handsome name, Sunjal to Jones, Yapu Chona, Yapu Chon with Tenla, Chon, Yapu Majuna, Yapu Majun Tendo, Chone, Nepa Mato, Tatielache, Yapu Chonsomne, Tela Choyin Sepata, Yapu Majun Sone, Sembacho ala Supermazawa, Sunjal to Chongu, Sonrela, Tia Perna, Naranzo, Jason, Jia Gombo, Nam Traganama. Tene je gombo pa te jesi malare panjal tene konge takpa tingen se gom tene no kapsala tene misal ke kona nyom mandawa mambo chungare tene kap la jiba doji chinkurin jarwa to kap la kholo denchu ke chinkurin jarwa tene ta tende mandawa chunga ta loju ngursu ke nama kaji ngursu ke nama yuare la Te tabu chung kapsula, tene konge tati nyomti yapuchi yimbada, gong jesun malarepa la tanga, tingen se gompa kapsula, tende chiki nyom yungudu, si country kyu kapsula, malarepa ke sauna, ta chaya mare, te yente mare, ta gong gug re saune, tene ma lo na ore la. Yang kapche la pe, lumba kanga tuwe ke kong songa tabu ta, lumba kanga munari songa tabu che, tende chunga re la, tate dupo che in sare gong ne, yang jesi mala re pa la sunti te la, tera chaya mare, yente mare, kanya mare, sonne, ta yon jen te ne, gong gug re, sonne, ta tende ke, tene je gombo pa la, mandrawa mambo chunga re la, tene ti kapsula jesun mala re pi sauna, tanda tene nyom zangni khan ina yon tela choyin tang jitra seju yo mare perna ngaranso mei tserne mei te zug tserne namka dawa la te na dawa ni thong re tene tela mechi ki somna o makanga ka dawa chen thong re nge dawa ni thong do ngape misal yapo insare somna ya yapo khanya mare tene meitsar yo pe gong ki thong yo re ya me yenda je ke sana me khanga ga dawa tin thong yo re nge ni thong de de pe nga ta chi chen chen bo ji hu pa yin ban da sa na te chen kan ya ma re ngarang ge me tin zu mu tsar yo pe gong ki thong yo re pe te tar to tanda san la ni to ne gom du tene nyom ya bo ta nyom du bo nda bo nyom na so hyar ge re de yin ya tela chendo yin den khanya ma zong yin tin de te ne ngajal tong cho yin me ba chendo te ne ji to tong dungan me ba ta ten de si te ka la chong ne tene ting zen de compare to ro re song yo are la te kap ndare yo te tar to sungjal to chong si ta khora khan chong na ti mola gom ne nyom su nyong go re so.
Now, when we are resting like this, and when we are resting in meditation, whatever experiences happen at these times. So when we are resting in meditation, there are different experiences, different feelings and things that we can have happen. And these are what we call meditative experiences, or just experiences sometimes. And these experiences are sometimes really kind of nice things, and we sort of think, oh wow, my meditation is going great. Or sometimes the experience is terrible. I think, oh man, I've completely lost it. I can't meditate at all. What's happened to me? And so there are all these different experiences that happen, but whatever experiences happen at these times, maintain them as they happen. So whatever they are, whether they're good or whether they're bad, just sort of maintain them as they are. So if they're good experiences, just let them be as they are. If they are bad experiences, just let those be as they are. If they are good experiences, we should not cling to them. If they are bad experiences, we should not we should not be afraid of them either. There is an example of this. This example comes from the life story of Lord Gampopa. Now, Lord Gampopa met Milarepa, and when he went Milarepa, he then went to practice meditation. He was sitting in samadhi meditation all the time. And while he was sitting in meditation, he had all sorts of different experiences that happened. One time, sometimes he would see these mandalas. He'd see the entire mandala of Hevajra, or the entire mandala of Chakrasamvara, and experiences like this. And when he went to when he had these experiences, he would then go to Milarepa, and he'd say to Milarepa, when I was meditating, I'm having these really great experiences of seeing all these great mandalas. And Milarepa said, well, okay, you're meditating, you're having experience. It's not a quality, it's not a problem. Just go back and keep meditating. And so he sent him back to go meditating. Then Gampopa went back, and he'd have these terrible experiences. He'd see the entire world filled with clouds of dust. Everything would come black, and he'd think, uh-oh, something's wrong in my meditation. I'm having real problems there. And he would go to Milarepa, and Milarepa said, it's not a problem, it's not a quality. All you have to do is go back and keep meditating. So you can read about this story in the Ocean of Kagyu songs, the Rain of Wisdom. And so when you read this, you see that Gampopa had all these many different experiences that happened. And whether they're good experiences or whether they're bad experiences, Milarepa's advice was, do not have any attachment to them, do not have any fear of them. And then Milarepa went on to give an example for that. For example, if there is someone who standing there squeezing their eyeball with their finger, and they're looking up at the night sky and they see the moon, they're squeezing their eyeball so they see two different moons. Now, some people when this happens are going to look up and say, ha, everyone else just sees one moon and I see two. Ha, I'm wonderful. Ha ha. But really, there's nothing there. They're just pressing their eyeball. In the same way, some people will be pressing their eyeball and they see two moons and they say, oh, everyone else sees one moon and I see two. There must be something terribly wrong with me. And there's nothing wrong with them. They're just pressing their eyeball. So it's the same way with the meditation. You're just sort of pressing on these different places in the mind. And so these different sort of experiences happen. There's no reason to worry about whether they're good experiences or whether they're not good experiences. There are these experiences that happen, and you shouldn't see them as faults, you shouldn't see them as qualities. However they are, maintain them as they happen. If they're good experiences, just maintain them as they are. If they're bad experiences, just maintain them as they are. And so if they are good experiences, you should not see them as qualities. You should not get prideful and attached about them. If they are not good experiences, you should not get fearful or afraid of them in any way, but rather just maintain them as they are. Rest within your meditation. And so maintain them as they happen and maintain whatever experience it is that happens to you.
Tene ta tetar to gom na ya tetar se chung ye ma to par tro na ta ya nam to kap kap la nam to tro ge war ta tan dang ram so gom ja tembe zong tene nyam chi chi la sung jal to chung na ya tene kap kap la ye ma to par nam to tro na ta nam to tro ge nyem bo la nam ba ni song war la ta nam to tro na nyem bo ni te kan de song re se na kon to Tema to Jane baby Kila Yaw goes Jane Kini, True Yaw ni Gomna, Yang Yungre Sumarella. Yang Tap Nipa the Canderesena, Tembi Zona, Topa the G Kila, Topa the Candido, Canan Trogodo, Chilla Trogodo, Topung over the Candirindo, Tena, Topen Song, Riri, Darkia Chepersa, Topa the Nangonda, Korang or Tomba Imbat. Topa te koraya ngani te na topa te rang nimbo da wo hira mepa kora balap da wo je boa chui boa da wo je namba da wo je yo ar ma to ngani ge dembar tu be do da wo kaya yo mare la te mepa te song ri la darkha che par sa wo te ne pe nengo ya po chi ta to ba je che go re so
So at the time we are doing that and we are resting and maintaining whatever it is as it happens, if you do that but still cannot and thoughts happen, so sometimes you're doing that, whatever you're trying to maintain, whatever experience you're having, you're trying to rest within it, but you're not able to do it and thoughts happen. And when thoughts happen, there are two different things that you can do. There are two different remedies that you can use. The first remedy is the one that we discussed before, of immediately cut them completely and rest. So stop them, take a break from them, put a stop to them immediately, and rest within that. And then the second one is grasp it with mindfulness and follow its tracks. So you grasp it with mindfulness, you have mindfulness, you follow that thought where it goes. You analyze, where did it go? Where did it come from? How did it go? What is its essence like? And you look at like that. And so when you look at what it is, or look at what it goes to until you get to the bottom of the hidden secret of the thought. And so you are really looking to see what is the real important point about the thought. What is the main thing about thought? And you sort of looking at the essence of it. You see that the essence is emptiness. That it is an empty essence, and so there's really no essence there at all. It's just like a wave, or it's like a bubble. It's sort of like this formation or form that happens, but if you look at it, you really see that there's nothing that you can really prove is there. There's no solid thing there at all. And so you need to look at this look at what it goes to until you get to the bottom of the hidden secret of thought. So you need to find out what this hidden secret of thought is and really look carefully until you get right down to the bottom of that hidden secret of the thought.
Tene ta te tar to main par gom na ta tanda no gite ni tawata ripi gite ni tawata tene to pa no to tro na jen chi ni tawata tene to ngo la tawata te ta bo se ne gombe ke tap number na so ba te tar to gom na salto zemi je nyam charwa te some sa Tati chitang gong ngo te kande chi yore se na chitang toni to topare la toni to topate yo chi yo me pe tomba mai pa tene salwe ngo ta che pa imbe cherna salton zemi je nyam charwa la te somme to te ge longtong ge hi che ge re somne ngo je na ma la tati ge longtong ge te ta tanda Thangtong Gyalpo 사실 가오만 놓는 소리에.
And so if you can meditate on that without distractions, so if you're meditating upon that, and when we're meditating here, we've got 4 different ways that we're meditating. We can meditate upon the external appearances. We can meditate upon the awareness or the knowing. We can meditate and cut the flow of thoughts, or we can meditate and look at the essence of thoughts. So there are these several different ways that we can do our meditating. And if you meditate on that without distraction, there is no doubt that the experience of clear, empty, lack of fixation will happen. So generally, when we are meditating on this, when we get to the essence of it, the essence of our meditation is realizing emptiness. And when we realize this emptiness is not just nothingness, it's not nothing at all. Rather, it has this clarity. So it has the clarity aspect. And so here, you get to the experience of a clear, empty, lack of fixation. And it definitely will happen. So there is no doubt that if you look in this way, the wisdom of insight will arise in you. And so in here, these are the instructions on insight meditation from Thangtong Gyalpo's Amulet Mahamudra.
Tene ta te ji so ta tanda jono jesin Taranatha ke sung ke longtong ke tai la ta khasing ke kapsula hine la mikur chuji ye pate chu charwa la ta longtong ke tai ni ba longtong ke tai semsol na ta semte kandidu tagi ko yo la te ya la me khaljin le je paranju ondo se na ta lama tamba jibu tamba tamji ki khalne sem jingo ton sen jinelu lan de tagu re sunga ta te tar to kamder je par sunga re la tombo ngar yin rombap sum ne do pap ne te lu rombap nga rombap san rombap te rombap namba sam ne do pap ne le ji le pe ngon ne te san ji ne lu chorwa na tham chi jing han ro yin no ngui ye meeting dain te sam ta te la ramba yin dain te yo re.
And so now we come to Taranatha's instructions on insight meditation. These are on page 12. So we've come to Taranatha's instructions in insight, looking for the nature of mind. Yesterday, in the instructions on tranquility meditation, there were 11 subjects of focus. Now here in the instructions on insight meditation, there are 7 subjects of focus. Instructions on insight, looking for the mind. So how do we look for the mind? In terms of the detailed explanations from the Lama's oral traditions. So the Lamas have an oral tradition of saying, now you need to look for the essence of the mind in this way. This is what the nature of the mind is. So look for it in this way. And so here, this is explaining this tradition in 3 ways. And it says, first, get to the heart of the threefold letting go, or the threefold natural settling as before. Looking while in a state of relaxation is the preliminary to everything. And so you rest in the threefold natural state, and while you're resting to that, the real point of this is that you're relaxing into this point and resting within that. And then following that, there are 7 sessions of focus in the actual practice.
Tene ta tingu yi meeting dain te la sem jing wo la cholwa jenga la cholwa yunhong la cholwa namdo la cholwa yunhong ye me ji chepar la cholwa namdo ye me ji chepar la cholwa rongji yin so ta je pa te ta dan ye pe na ne tang bo te la sem jing wo la cholwa are la sem jing wo la cholwa ki cholte kan de go gre se na sem jing wo la jere ta hen ta pe tekala teni je jipok jabni tawandro jipok wonto sena kuni tawandro ji sege yore de ina te mai pa nguso ngarang semla ngarang ta ye hebto hipanju pate ta te kandirindu yapo ta ter cholwa rangi to sona se ta tela ya tawe ke cholte perna ngaranso teni ribi tachi sepa mahin par teka la labjong si ne tago ki yore la perna ngaranso siu la labjong si ki so la ke labjong kandi che ki yore se na jiu de kanan rogo do kanan nyal ge do kala kare sa ge do ta ne labjong si perna bol labjong si ki so ge bo de tombo kandi si che ge do tene kanan ni ge do tene korang kala kandi sogudu tawarela pete kendo ngaranso ke sanla taw kapsala semte kabade gedu san korang ngo kabado kandi do yapo heptun jupate tetar cholwa rongi do sone dei jedme be nyamchi pana tate semden dendin do sene de yepare sene nguzun samme dodon rabo kaya mepa mepa tomba ni re senaya semti salchat jai machi pa salwari senaya tatanda ngus tonya tan jya khaya mepa tene tomba re senaya tige hakwa to hipati jai machi pa tate tabu jai imbesena jedme pe nyam chi pa na romwap sa tatinde chi khain tu nguzum me pa jindo samna romwap sun jote mikur teko tate mikur tangbo te tar tu tagu yore.
So we have 7 different sections here in the instructions in insight. These 7 different sections are looking for the essence of the mind, looking for arising and ceasing, looking for appearances of objects, looking for thoughts, looking for a difference between the presence and absence of the appearance of objects, looking for a difference between the presence and absence of thought, and determining the nature as the expanse. So the first of these is looking for the essence of the mind. So what is the looking for the essence of the mind? Look directly at the essence of the mind. So we look directly at the essence of the mind. We're looking straight at it. It's not like we're doing inference. When you look at things through inference, then you're kind of peeking around at them from behind. That's not what we're doing. We're actually looking directly at our mind. Our minds are really our own thing, so we can look at our own minds and we can analyze them very carefully. So, and engage in a fine analysis of it. So we need to analyze our mind very finely. Now, when we analyze it like that, if that effort self-destructs, so when we're looking at that mind, we're not looking here through logic. We're not using logic to look at it. This is like when you're studying something, we're studying it directly. For example, if someone is studying birds, if an ornithologist is studying birds, they will look at the bird and they will see, where does the bird come from? Where does it fly to? Where does it sleep at night? What sort of food does it eat? How does it eat it? And they look at this. They actually go out in the field and they really look at it. Similarly, you'll have entomologists who will go out and spend hours in the field looking at bugs. Where does the bug come from? Where did it go? What is it like? And so they're looking at the bug in this direct way. They're not reasoning about it, they're looking right at it. And that is the same way that we look at the mind. What is the essence of the mind like? Did it come from somewhere? Is it going someplace? Is it staying someplace? What is it like? Looking at the essence, and we really look at this really carefully. And when we are looking at it and analyzing it really finely, if that effort self-destructs and the experience of being unable to say what it is happens, or I could retranslate this. If that effort self-destructs and you have the experience of being unable to say what it is, so if you feel like, well, I can't really say what it is, you say that it is empty, but it doesn't stop. There's still the clarity. The clarity doesn't stop. You can call it clear, but there's nothing there that I can find is actually clear. We say that it is emptiness, but I'm still able to know things. And so you look at it in this way, and in the end, there's nothing there that you can find at all. There's nothing you can identify in any ways. And so when that happens, and you have the experience of being unable to say what it is, rest letting go, or rest, just let it settle naturally. So rest within that. And so this is the first subject of focus on insight meditation. And so that is how we need to look at the nature of the mind.
Tene tatela chitanga mikur dain yore de inaya tatambo mikur tambo de rela tene tren te som jona te gomna roji chmari.
So now, in general, there are 7 subjects of focus, but that is the first subject of focus, and maybe this is enough for this afternoon. So now let's do a little bit of meditation.
Taranatha Gewa Shingi Karma Choephel Dirujine Nante Shadon Sho Deke Dagi Mananda Badi Choju Sanje Jansen Tamje Ge Medru Brajinje Ladus Teata Pensem Ria Buddha Naizo Senande Tam Jesebani Tomene Bedranam Tam Yegana Jibala Chubai Sebe